Welcome to video number 5 of a 10-part series in Adapting to Project Professional 2010. In this video we're going to talk about inactive tasks. First I'm going to show you what inactive tasks are, and then I'll go ahead and show you an example as to why you might use them. So essentially I've got two tasks here. I've got task A, task B, I'll add another task, C, and I'll go over here and set a predecessor-successor relationship. You can see on the Gantt chart on the right hand side they're all connected now. Now what I might do is also say that this third task is connected to both task A and B, so I'll just type 1 and 2. Now at some point in the project we might decide that we don't want to do task B, but we don't want to forget that we had this task in there. As a matter of fact, we might decide later that we want to actually do task B. But for now we've said we're not going to do it. So what we can do is click on the task, make sure we're on the task tab inside of project, and there's an icon here called inactivate. So I'll click on that, and what you can see now is that this task is no longer active. Task C is still linking to it, but its dates have changed. So I'm going to go ahead and do an undo here. You can see that task C was originally due to start on 5/13. I'm going to inactivate it again. Oops, sorry. I'll inactivate task B. And you can see that now it went to 5/12. And that happened because now its relationship is only with task A insofar as how it's going to schedule the dates. Now let's take an example of a real-world project. Here I've got a sample project. It's a software project, and we're going to need to install some new hardware, some new computers that are going to run our software. Now in our project we have this process where we purchase hardware, receive the hardware, and install it. However, when I spoke with the IT department, they said that very often the hardware manufacturer is usually very late in getting the hardware in. And they told me that maybe I should plan for the chance of the project actually needing to use some old hardware for the time being and then migrate it to the new stuff when it comes in. So you can see I actually built into my project plan already two risk-based tasks. One is to use old new hardware, and one is to migrate to the new hardware when it becomes available. And you can see I even set up the whole predecessor relationship as needed. Once the hardware is installed, we have these requirements that we are going to work through. So you can see the requirement here, this first one, starts on 6/8/2010. Now if at some point this new hardware does not come in on time and we need to activate our risk level tasks, which I'll do right now, watch what happens to build requirement number 1. The original start date was 6/8/2010. You can see that my project has now been pushed out to 6/15/2010, and that's affected all the downstream tasks as well. And that's because we've activated tasks with dates that will take longer than we originally expected. So we actually use these inactive tasks to mitigate risk. Now the other thing that I could do as well is, as I'm working through the project, we're building maybe requirement number 1, and we have some meetings and we realize that requirement number 2, although important, is going to take too long. It's going to affect our budget. So I might want to pull the project task in and say, well, we're not going to do requirement number 2, but I don't want to lose the historical record that we had scheduled to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and deactivate build requirement number 2. Watch what happens to requirement number 3. Its current start date is 7/23/2010. I'm going to deactivate the task it's related to. And you can see I've actually pulled the project in quite significantly, but it's actually only relating here back to task number 8. when I do this, I have to think about relinking my tasks to more pertinent tasks. So if we build requirement number 1, we're not doing 2, but we have to build requirement number 3 now, I should relink this task up to number 8. So what I can do, though, is that someone might come around and say, you know what, we do need to build requirement number 2, so I can leave this relationship with task number 9, and I can also associate my project task to number 8, and you can see that my date changed to 6/25/2010. So that's how inactive tasks work. There's probably a number of different scenarios that you might want to use it for, but I truly think the two best ways of using it is to automatically build risk into your schedule that you can then just essentially hide using this technology, and also if you want to retain a set of tasks in your project that you've de-scoped.